More than anyone else, Robert Duvall despised him. Robert Selden Duvall was born on January 5, 1931, in San Diego. In California. He grew raised in an environment where military efficiency and artistic curiosity were mixed. That one-of-a-kind mix made him one of the most talented and quietly compelling actors in American movie history. William Howard Duvall, his father, was a strict Navy admiral who was used to order, hierarchy, and the framework of a world defined by duty. On the other side, his mother, Mildred Virginia Hart, came from a family of artists and visionaries. Her father was a well-known congressman from Virginia, and her love of culture and stories influenced young Robert's imagination. Duvall became the kind of actor who could play both the humble everyman and the scary authority figure with equal realism because of this mix of strict discipline and creative stimulation. Even though there was a large military presence at home, Duvall felt the pull of performance early on. After going to Principia College in Illinois, he followed his gut and moved to New York City, where he studied acting at the famous Playhouse School of the Under with the help of the famous Sanford Meisner. Duvall found the deep emotional sincerity and grounded reality that would define his career. He worked hard on his technique, earning a reputation for being intense, unpredictable, and not relying on flashy tricks. He wanted each figure to seem real, lived in, and very human, never fake or empty. His first performances were in New York City theaters, but he really made it big in 1962 when he starred in the movie To Kill a Mockingbird as the mysterious Boo Radley. Duvall's calm presence stuck with spectators even though he didn't say anything. That part established the tone for the rest of his life. He didn't have to yell to be heard. He didn't need to make big gestures to have a big effect. He was just there, and that was enough to get others to pay attention. Duvall was one of Hollywood's most reliable stars in the 1970s and 1980 seconds. Giving one great performance after another, Duvall always brought emotional depth, inner conflict, and quiet authority to the screen. Whether he was playing the icy commanding Major Kilgore in Apocalypse Now, the man who made I Love the Smell of Napalm in the Morning a cinematic legend, or the conflicted concealer Tom Hagen in the Godfather series, he had such complex, layered, and deeply felt performances that he often made whole movies better just by being in them. He won an Academy Award for Best Actor for his role as washed-up country musician Max Sledge in Tender Mercy 1983. It wasn't just the way he displayed his weakness that made this performance so great. It was the kindness, the humility, and the feeling that a guy was attempting to put his soul back together piece by piece. Duvall didn't just act like Max Sledge. He took over his body and gave the world one of the most moving and heartbreaking performances ever seen on cinema. Duvall was not only a great actor, but he was also a great storyteller behind the camera. His work as a filmmaker on The Apostle in 1997, a movie he wrote, directed, and starred in, showed how well he could analyze people's conflicts and beliefs with depth and honesty. The movie was a big hit with critics and got him another Oscar nomination, which shows how innovative he is. Duvall was still very active as he got older, playing great roles in movies like Open Range, Get Low, Crazy Heart, and The Judge. Every role he played showed that he never lost the special quality that made him great from the start. He still had that down-to-earth, unassuming aspect that made people feel like they weren't seeing a show. They were seeing someone live their life. Robert Duvall's personal life, like his long and varied acting career, had many different chapters, each characterized by a different marriage that showed where he was at the moment in terms of his emotions, creativity, and personal life. He married Barbara Brent in 1964, long before he became famous. This was his first marriage. This time, Duvall was still a rising star, going through auditions, looking for good roles, and trying to make a name for himself in a very competitive field. Barbara was there during those tough early years when he was learning his profession, taking on unusual roles, and gaining the reputation for honesty and intensity that would eventually define him. Their marriage lasted until 1981. A long time that saw him have some of his first big breaks and then become one of Hollywood's most renowned actors, even though the marriage failed. It was a very important time in his life when he found his voice as an artist. In 1982, not long after that, Duvall got married for the second time. This time it was to Gail Young, an actress whose family was very involved in the entertainment industry. Their relationship grew during one of Duvall's busiest times at work, the early to mid-1980s, when he was getting praise, taking on increasingly challenging responsibilities, and trying new things creatively. Duvall's marriage to Young's lasted only a few years and ended in 1986. But it was a time when he was dealing with celebrity at its peak. Their romance took place in a fast-paced creative setting with filmmakers, actors, and the unceasing creative energy of Hollywood. This chapter, though short, added to the puzzle of Duvall's complicated life narrative. In 1991, Duvall married Sharon Brophy, a dancer whose past and way of life added a new kind of rhythm to his life. At the time of their marriage, Duvall was already a well-known actor with decades of experience, but he was still growing as an artist. He was trying out directing and producing, and he was taking on roles that combined his love of performing with his deep personal interests, especially music and dance. Some of Duvall's long-standing cultural interests, like Argentine tango, fit in with Sharon's world in a natural way. He loved it and studied it seriously. Their marriage lasted until 1995. It was at a place shaped by artistic movement, inventiveness, and the emotional outpouring that dance often brings out. Even though the marriage failed, it was an important step in his journey to understand himself and what he wanted from love and life. After being single for a few years, Duvall married Luciana Pedraza in 2005. This was the longest and most satisfying relationship of his life. Luciana, an Argentine actress and filmmaker who is several decades younger than Duvall, infused new life and vitality into his existence. They were close because they loved each other and shared artistic interests, especially their love of Argentine culture and tango. They worked together on creative projects, traveled a lot, and helped each other with both work and very personal undertakings. Duvall seemed to thoroughly embrace the security, friendship, and joy that Luciana brought to his life in his later years. Their relationship was a quieter, more stable time in his life. He found comfort in deep connections, working with artists, and enjoying the basic things in life. Robert Duvall is one of the most renowned actors in Hollywood history. He has always been regarded for being honest and eager to speak his thoughts about the profession, his co-workers, and the individuals he has worked with. He has worked with a lot of great performers, but he has singled out Gene Hackman in a way that is not typical of him. In a rare honest interview, Duvall said, "I hated him more than anyone." Fans and co-workers were both astonished by the statement. Duvall and Hackman are both known as consummate professionals with decades of great work in movies. But for Duvall, the hatred was more than just a difference of opinion. It was based on long-standing professional frustrations and personal differences that had built up during years of working together, competing, and dealing with the stress of working on Hollywood sets. Duvall said that his dislike wasn't based on petty envy or professional competition in the usual way. Instead, it came from what he thought was Hackman's incompetence or unwillingness to work with Duvall in a creative way, which was the most important thing to him. Duvall said it wasn't about talent because Hackman had a lot of it. It had to do with how you felt. I thought he was attempting to make things harder on set, like he was always trying to be the boss instead of allowing the scene breathe. Duvall is recognized for his deliberate and immersive style of acting. To provide his best performances, he typically needs space, silence, and nuance. He said that Hackman's presence upset that balance. Duvall saw what would seem like small problems to outsiders' timing concerns, disagreements over lines, or different interpretations of a character as proof of a deeper, almost hostile personality clash. Duvall said that their professional relationship was especially bad during the 1970s and 1980 seconds, when they were both at the top of their careers and working on projects together. Duvall really respected Hackman's accomplishments, including the Oscars, the praise, and the famous parts. But that didn't make Hackman's behavior on set any less harsh. "I had to struggle for every bit of realness. Every scene felt like a tug of war," Duvall added. "He was kind while the cameras weren't on, but when they were, it seemed like he was playing chess while I was attempting to play poker, which I loathe." Duvall's honest humor aside, he seemed tired from dealing with the stress that seemed to be there all the time while Hackman was around. He stated that the stress affected not just his work but also his mental health. "I left some sets physically drained because of him," he remarked. His voice showed a mix of annoyance and surprise that two experienced professionals could be so mismatched. Duvall's comments were not all negative, even if he was very upset. He also said in the same interview that Hackman was a great performer and made an unquestionable contribution to film. Duvall said, "You can't deny Hackman's talent. He's a legend and deserves every award and honor he's ever won. But talent doesn't make up for everything. People can be hard to deal with at times, and Hackman was the hardest person for me to deal with. Duvall's comments showed how complicated relationships are in Hollywood. You can admire someone and hate them at the same time, and professional respect doesn't always mean personal concord. He thought about how hard it is for performers to deal with these conflicting feelings, especially when egos, artistic ambitions, and busy schedules clash. Duvall further said that the friction between Hackman and him was caused by their extremely different ways of working. Duvall prefers to quietly watch, get into character, and slowly change emotions without being too obvious. Hackman, on the other hand, typically used a more aggressive improvisational method that drew attention. Duvall said, "We were like oil and water. I'm all in the little things that happen inside. He is all about the statement, the punch, and the proclamation. Neither of us could offer the other what we wanted. And being in that world every day might be hard on you." He said that looking back, he might have tried more to comprehend Hackman's way of doing things, but at the moment, there was just too much tension. The fight changed the way they worked together, and Duvall was left with a lasting sense of anger and the honest admission that he despised him more than anybody else. But Duvall's words also included a hint of giving up and grim humor. He said that the fight was important to him personally, but in the big picture of his career, it didn't matter. At the end of the day, it's simply work. He said, "We're actors. We get paid to be on camera, but certain folks are just too much for me." Hackman was one of them, and I'll tell you, it took me a long time to let go of that rage. I had to laugh about it in the end, because else it would have eaten me alive. Duvall gave a rare look into the weaknesses and frustrations of an actor who is generally praised for his calm and serene public persona when he thought about his experience. His open admission of not liking one of Hollywood's most famous performers reminds us that there are complicated human connections, egos, and emotions that impact the work we see on film. Robert Duvall's statement regarding Gene Hackman is both a warning and an interesting look at what really goes on behind the scenes of a picture. It shows that even the best and most famous performers can have personal problems that can turn into blatant animosity. Duvall's statements, which are raw and unfiltered, show that he has been in the business for a long time, is dedicated to his profession, and is honest, which has always made him one of the most interesting people in movies. He said it again, not out of guilt, but to show that even in the rarefied world of Hollywood heroes, human emotions are never completely gone.